And we're going to open up Finder. So Finder is equivalent to your My Computer. This is where everything in your computer is stored. So whether it's an application or a file, Finder is going to be your best friend. It's how you navigate. You'll notice he never closes. So you can see if an application is open, there's going to be a little dot underneath it. So he never closes. If he does, that's going to be an issue. You can't close him if you try to. You can hide him, but you cannot close him. So let's open this up. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger by dragging on the corner so we can see the whole screen. So on the left-hand side is my navigation, how I come from folder to folder. So let's start with the first one, applications. These are your programs. These are the different programs that you can run, you can install. Some of them are defaulted and installed by Apple. Some of them are ones that you may have installed, like Adobe. It is not something that's come standard on your computer. Things like the App Store, however, do. Now, if it's something I use all the time, I may want to put this down on my dock. And it's really easy to do so. So if I wanted to add Evernote down on my dock, all I have to do is click, I drag. So again, I'm going to be holding down my mouse. I drag it, and I'm going to drop it right in between two of these apps. And you notice how I held my mouse pointer there without dropping it immediately because the two icons moved aside. So I'm going to do that again. So I click, I drag, and I wait for them to move aside, and I drop it. And now Evernote is right there on my dock. If I wanted to move it over a little bit, I just click, I drag, wait for it to move aside, and now I can move it. So you can really rearrange your dock and make it how you want it. And you can have as many icons as you want on there. Just keep in mind, the more you add, the more you're going to have to sort through. So if I add iBooks down there as well, you'll notice how my icons as a default are getting smaller until I magnify over them. So that's where that magnification comes into effect. We're going to look at desktop. Desktop is the default screen that you see, which is this here. So if you save a file on there, let's say I have a movie file that I add on my desktop, it's going to be right there now inside my Finder. So it's displaying what you see already on your desktop. Documents. This is a little bit different than the My Documents on a PC, because instead of just having things like photos and music and everything lumped into one folder labeled Documents, this is just your documents. The things that you have that are Word documents or PDFs or spreadsheets, that's what goes into My Documents. Now I have some things that aren't necessarily in folders, and I want to create a brand new one. So I'm going to go up here to where it says File, New Folder, and it will ask me what I want to name it. So maybe we want to call this Retreat Information. Type it in, and you can see it automatically alphabetizes it for me. Now let's put some stuff in that folder. When I click on something, I can drag that right into Retreat and drop it. And you'll notice it pops over. Now your Finder might look a little bit different than mine. You'll notice how I have columns. I like columns because it lets me see the most broad category and go to the most narrow. So on the left-hand side, these are the most broad categories, and as I click on Documents, I'm in Retreat, and inside Retreat, I'm in Fall Retreat here. So as you go deeper and deeper into layers of folders, you see it inside this column view. If I wanted to change that, that's where this top bar comes in handy. So right up here, I click on the icons. This is the icon view. Now you can see I don't see the parent folders anymore. I just see what was in that folder. This may look more familiar to what you've seen before. If I wanted to go back to that parent folder, that's where the back button comes into play. I click that and it brings me back. Now the next view is going to be list view. Instead of showing the columns, this shows the entire list of things. Now I can still see what's inside those folders. Next to each folder, if there's contents inside it, you're going to see a little arrow. There we go. So right here, click on again, collapses, decollapses. So we have right there, Fall Retreat. So those arrows you'll also see, again, amongst a lot of different programs. It's the way, almost like an outline, you'll see it indented over. You're going deeper and deeper within folders. Third one is that column view I started with. This is, again, my favorite view because I can really navigate a lot better inside here. Fourth view, this is the fanciest view of them all. This is cover flow. So this is a throwback to an older version of iTunes where you can see the file that you're trying to go through as well as the list and data about that file. So it gives me a tiny bit of preview about it. Now if I'm back in column view and I wanted to see a bigger preview of Fall Retreat, I can click on this and then hit my space bar for what's called Quick Look. This will pull up not by opening the program, but just a preview of what you're seeing. And this works for movie files, this works for PDFs, and so I can see this is a PDF I made, and I can know, is that the newest one? Is that the one I'm looking for? This works really well if you have a lot of versions of a document labeled Doc 1, Doc 1.2, Doc 2, Doc 3, and you have no idea what's in them. You just hit that space bar, use that quick look, and you can quickly see exactly what's in there without having to wait for Microsoft Word to load or a different program to load up. Now I can also tag things, and you'll see these tags right on the left-hand side here where I have some colors. On my top bar, I click on the tag here. I can ask what kind of tag I want, so it could be red. And so now when I click red over here, everything that's marked red will pop up. This is a great way if you have things that you're currently working on or you need to have an intention of, you can quickly tag them with a color and organize them just by clicking orange or red or yellow, and it will pop right up. So again, that's your tag feature. And I can add more than one tag. So if I want red, orange, purple, all of them to be on that, you can see anytime I go into that folder now, it's also in orange, it's also in purple with that document. So that pretty much covers documents there. Let's click on downloads. So have you ever gone into your email, clicked on an attachment, and not known where it's gone? I know I have. Apple has a great way to solve that problem, and it's the downloads folder. So anything that you download, whether it's a program or a document, is going to show up in that downloads. So I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to go to Safari, which is our web browser, a lot like Chrome or Firefox, which you can install Chrome or Firefox. And I'm just going to go to Google Drive, click download, and it will start downloading. Now, if you have an attachment, it would do a very similar thing where what it's going to do is it's going right into my downloads folder, and this may take a little bit to do, but when I click downloads, you now see that installer has popped up. Now your downloads do not remove themselves. So if you have downloaded 100 attachments, keep in mind they are still in your downloads folder until you move them to somewhere else. So if I needed to move this installer somewhere outside of my downloads folder, all I have to do is that click and drag. So if I know this is something I want to put in my documents instead, typically installer you wouldn't do that, but let's do it. I'm going to click, I'm going to drag it and drop it right in documents. And so now you can see it's downloading right here instead. So I'm moving things outside of that downloads folder and putting them somewhere else. So again, and you can see it's nice and clean. I have nothing else in my downloads folder. Think of it as a loading dock. So as I'm getting a new package, it puts it on the loading dock, but that's not its final destination. I need to take it somewhere and unpack it where it needs to go. So that's what your downloads folder is. It's just a temporary solution for you to quickly find what you've downloaded from either online or from your attachments in your mail. So we've been over tags. We've talked about desktop. We've talked about things like your documents folder. You're probably wondering, where is everything else? So if I wanted to find something else, let's say videos or photos, this is not everything on my computer right now. I can customize how this is being shown. If I click on Finder in the top left-hand corner, click on Preferences, I can choose what pops up on that left-hand sidebar. So I personally don't use iCloud Drive. Maybe I don't want to see that more. I just click on that and it deletes it from this bar. It doesn't mean the contents of that folder are deleted, it just means I don't see it inside my Finder. I also want to turn on things like movies, music, and pictures, as well as my home folder. So now I have on the sidebar movies, music, and pictures. If I click on movies, these are all of my movie files. All of them show up here. So again, unlike my documents where everything is kind of thrown into in one place, this is now going to be segregated into different folders for a function, and I would encourage you to use them. So you'll notice your iMovie library shows up right inside here. Now a lot of the native Apple apps, let's say iMovie, iPhoto, they have their own specific library that you really can't explore unless you're in the app. But those libraries will live inside the movies folder. And the same thing is true for pictures. So if I click on pictures, you'll see the photos library. Same thing with music. So music, you'll see the iTunes library pop up. So these Apple apps have their storage inside these specific folders, but you go into the app themselves to find the data. Now I talked about each user being a home inside a neighborhood. I enabled what's called the home folder. So if I don't like navigating through here, I can click on the home folder, and this is everything that's specific to my user. Now I would recommend keeping files inside folders. So don't just throw a movie right in what we call the root or the base system right here in your neighborhood. That's the equivalent of just throwing trash out on your curb. Your neighbors are going to get grumpy. Your computer is going to get grumpy. So you want to bring everything right into your house. So this is inside my house. If I click on documents, it's the same documents I'm clicking on over here. So it's not different. This is my home inside here. However, because you have multiple users, each individual user on here, so if I had a guest user or if I had maybe a kid user on there, they would have a different home folder and wouldn't be able to see the data inside my own house. They wouldn't be able to go in there without my permission.